Face like a shark in heat. That's a classic China phrase. I know that one. Very familiar with it.
Yeah, when you see a shark, you punch it in the face. If it's in heat. Hello.
Are we live?
What are you clicking on? Until you're looking at menus and whatnot.
No, I'm ready. Let's go.
Are you ready?
Down.
My
caffeinated tea. I'm ready.
Ooh, I got mine too. Look at this. Yerba
mate. Mine's a yerba mate.
Oh,
too.
Look at that. Fucking
sparkling yerba mate. Mine's a little carbonated.
Yeah, I don't like their sparkling ones. I don't like any of their carbonated ones, but I've only had like one or two of them. They just taste.
This is a different. This one's just clean cause. They
no big deal.
50% of their profits support addiction recovery.
Ooh.
So I'm just helping the drug addicts. Yeah.
Clean cause. I like dirty causes. And just causes. And just becauses.
Why Nazis?
that wonderful socialist group, Why Nazis?
Yeah.
I like them. They're my favorite. they're not to be confused with the actual Nazis. They're the Why Nazis.
Why Nazis, yeah.
They're just like little children who keep asking you, well, why not? Why not? Why not?
It's WHYNOTSEE. Why Nazis?
Why Nazis? All right, we're back, man. You know what episode it is?
Episode fucking, I don't know.
It's episode 150.
Wow.
And so it's a nice little round number there, right in the middle of 100 and 200.
That is the halfway point between those two numbers. That's right.
If I've got my math right with my watch.
That does not exist.
And doesn't do math. That's not how watches work.
Hey, you might have one of those like old school calculator watches from like the 80s, you know?
Those died out a long time ago.
Did they? I don't know.
Do you have little monks in the background doing little bell chiming?
Nope, that is the dog drinking from the water bowl over in the kitchen, and they have like these little dog tags.
I know, right? And they're smacking against the little bowls.
It's obnoxious. And then sometimes I'm like, can you stop drinking water? Because it's really obnoxious for me.
Yeah. Can you
just go dehydrate? I don't care.
Yeah, just for like a few minutes, just dehydrate and die a little bit so that I don't deal with your ting, 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 ting.
That would be kind of, it's almost better if I did have like just like a little like Tibetan monk somewhere that just periodically chimed a little bell.
Just every once in a while. Ding, ding, ding. Every on the hour.
I don't know, and like I wouldn't know why. What the purpose of the bell ringing is. He just does it.
Yeah,
randomly.
Yeah. It's not on the hour. It's not when you're eating. It has nothing to do with nothing. It's every time he masturbates. It likes to let you know.
But you can't tell because his robes are so big that you can't even tell what he's doing under there.
No, you don't see him ever. It's just every time he comes and dings the bell, it's just he just masturbated.
It just means you're gonna find a random kind of sticky spot in your house somewhere. He's warning you.
Yeah. It's I'm thinking like this big. Like I'm thinking like a tiny mini. Like
Indian in the cupboard style.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. Yeah, they need to remake that. They'd have to call it like Native American in the cupboard.
Yeah, I don't know if they could with today's societal, the way things are. Who knows? Yeah, indigenous man in the cupboard.
Is he indigenous to the cupboard and we like tried to take
that's
over
the meta commentary, I guess, is trying to decide which is which. I gotta put this out there. Are we recording? Because I need this in the episode.
We are recording.
Okay, good. Welcome to Fleeting Thoughts, everybody. Welcome to figure that out.
Yeah, we're doing it.
And right before we got started, I just want to share with everybody that I took the most perfect shit I've ever taken.
Oh,
right before we started. Like it was a nice, long, thick, like just like a perfect tube. It didn't break off prematurely, nothing. It just like slid right out.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't even like it didn't have that explosion plop either, that like sprays the water all over your butt, and you're
I
like,
know
oh
what you're
damn
talking
it.
about. Yeah, yeah.
Didn't happen. It just went in
It
smooth,
was like a Olympic swimmer diver.
and it was really clean. It wasn't one of those ones where you had to go through like half a roll of toilet
It's like
paper to clean up. It was just like,
no wipes.
it was perfect. It was so amazing that I actually had to stop and just admire it. Like I didn't want to flush it for a second because I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, damn, dude, that's a really nice.
Uh-huh.
And then immediately I'm like, what did I eat roughly
Yeah, you
40
wanna,
hours
how
ago?
do I
Because
recreate it? How do I recreate the perfect? That's
anyway, so just
hilarious. No, I know what you're, sometimes you just astound yourself with your own
just perfect
biology.
color, perfect texture,
Mhm.
because if you're
How do you know about
hydrated,
texture? I'm
it
wondering.
just it looks, how like
Okay,
you
okay.
can get the visual cues of probably I'm not picking it up and fucking touching
You
it.
can.
Because you can have those hard little rock looking ones, like if you're almost
Mhm.
constipated, so you're like, oh, I
Yeah,
need to,
yeah, they're
get some
like,
more fiber or something in here. Or you got your slimy diarrhea type stuff. But this one just was, I think it's because it was so perfectly formed. You're like, damn, that's like solid, but it
mhm.
had like that nice, smooth, like well hydrated coating on the outside that helps it just kind of slide right out without
Hmm.
much effort.
I
Anyway,
know exactly what you're talking
just
about.
fucking
Dude,
glorious.
every once in a while, I'll have like the longest shit in the world. And it's like, it's like longer than the toilet or something. And it makes you kind of proud that like you saved up and you got it all. It's like your whole lower intestine is just gone now.
Those are
Clean.
the best ones. Like it's kind of unsatisfying if you poop like once or
Like, yeah,
twice
just or
every
just like
day.
one
And
little
it's
poop like
yeah, and
this.
it's just like little ones. I'm like, I would rather just sit maybe every other day and just have a really nice,
Ooh,
big,
wow.
just
I don't know. I think
cleansing of
some
the
people do
system.
that. I have a friend who was eating on the keto diet,
Hmm.
and he was like hardcore, like just like protein and fats. And he was saying that he would have like one shit every other day, and I'm sure they were fucking long and
Well,
hard.
what's tricky about keto is like unless you're eating a lot of vegetables, you're not getting a lot of fiber because a lot of the fiber in our
Yeah.
diets comes from like wheat products and
Well,
beans
veggies,
and
yeah,
stuff like
beans. Well,
that.
he was
That's
eating
usually,
beans. I
yeah,
think
I
he
just
was eating
mean,
beans for protein.
okay, because beans
Um,
have a decent amount of carbs in them. So I guess it just depends on
oh,
how
maybe
much.
maybe he
But
wasn't. I don't know. I feel like I remember him talking about beans,
if
but
you're eating a lot
maybe,
of like broccoli and like leafy greens, there's a lot of
yeah.
fiber in that stuff too. And
I
it's
take,
all carb free for the most part.
yeah, I eat those gummy fiber supplements, but I also eat vegetables pretty regularly.
Mhm.
But yeah, if I don't do that, like if I take a few days off from my like clean routine, my stomach sucks.
Yeah, mine too.
I have IBS and all that, and it gets weird. But I love to just go splurge on some fast food every once in a while.
You gotta do it, man. You gotta live a little. You only get one life, so if it tastes
Mhm,
good,
mhm.
just indulge every once in a
Just
while.
do it. Yeah.
Everything in moderation, as they say.
Yeah, even eating good, eating well. Speaking of eating well, let me show you what I was doing last weekend while we couldn't
Ooh,
get together. I'm gonna share my screenage. Boop.
you have
Um,
to describe this for just the audio listeners. You're gonna really have to give them
yes.
a
So
very vivid.
last weekend I took the weekend to visit with a friend and help a friend named Mark Mason um, do photography and video, but I just helped him with the video part. And so every year we do this thing, other than last year, of course, because of freaking COVID.
Hmm.
But every year before that for like 3 years in a row. And then this year we go to this thing called the Emerald Cup, which is a NPC, National Physique Council Committee or something, physical. I don't know. It's a amateur bodybuilding. And so I did videos like this one here. Uh, blah, 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 blah. Let me turn that shit down.
It's got like a tuft of fuzz in his mouth, beak. Sorry, not mouth. Birds have
Uh,
beaks.
I don't know. It's just these
Is it like building a nest or
fucking.
something?
Oh, are you looking at the bird? Why is that
Yeah.
showing? That's not what my screen shows.
Oh yeah, that's what I
Here,
see. I
okay,
see a
let's look
bird.
at the bird. Let's do something that makes sense to you. So the other thing I was going to show you that I had ready here is I've got a freaking bird making a nest outside my door, and so that's it there. Um, And I thought it was super cool. I like little birds, and I took a bunch of photos this morning. He's trying to make a little nest, and it was all fallen down and stuff. I'll show you another photo.
Did you feel like this desire to help him? You were just like,
I did.
what can I do? What can
Oh
I
no, I
do for
totally
you?
did. I was like, oh, I'll go like give you a pillow. But it looks, see how it's like it's all hangly dangly there.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so I snipped off the parts that are kind of dangling so it doesn't get kind of, because I could pull on that and just ruin the whole thing. So I snipped off the little bits there.
I wish that I had birds making. You know what? I have the only thing that makes a nest outside my fucking like back door are wasps. And
Yeah,
so
no, that's not
I've
good.
joined forces with all of the neighborhood spiders. And so like there's like,
Mm-hmm.
spider
Mm-hmm.
webs all over under the overhang of our roof. And I'm like, I'm just leaving them up there because those things help me fight off these fucking wasps. I'd rather have spiders out there than wasps.
Yeah, for sure. Wasps are
So
horrifying.
enemy of my enemy, man, for
Yeah.
sure.
No, that's for sure. I would be killing some bees and wasps and whatnot. But let me get
Like,
rid of that.
yeah, bees don't bother me. It's just the wasps because they don't fucking serve any purpose. They're just the assholes of the sky. And so fuck them. I have like 2 cans of wasp killing spray that I just bought. I'm fucking ready for the summer because they come out in full force, man. I gotta like walk the perimeter of my house every couple of weeks and spray them bitches down. Otherwise, their nests just start cropping up everywhere.
That's crazy. Yeah, I wonder why. I don't see wasps or hornets or anything like that around
Well,
much where I am.
well, really, it's all farmland out here, so there's a lot
Oh,
more like bugs and wildlife than like if you're in the city because it's just all farms around us. And then we live in like a little suburban type neighborhood, but it's all farmland all around us. So there's all kinds of shit running around out here. Like when I go running in the morning, I see rabbits and foxes out in the fields.
oh
It's really
wow.
cool. Like, yeah.
That's cool.
Um,
I didn't
but
realize it was that rural.
yeah, with all the beautiful stuff, you got to deal with the assholes of the sky and their little stingers.
Yeah, they are the
Fuckers.
assholes of the sky. Assholes of the like lower range of the sky.
Those
like
guys are
like person height sky.
right. Yeah, yeah.
They're
Of
not
the
going that high up, but
no,
they're running around in the air. Um can you see the thing here now?
yeah, the emerald cups.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about with the amateur bodybuilding. So for 2 full days, I'm just filming these guys doing this stuff.
I like the guy in the far left. Is it like organized by size? Because it looks like one of those charts
This
where like as it's going to the right, they're just like taller and bigger.
yeah, it is. Well, so this is the overall. So there's a bunch of different classes, and this is like the winners of each class, and each class is based on like um is like these guys like on the far left here, he's tiny and he's older, and then the other ones are all based on height, so each group's based on height. And so the guy with the orange penis there
I
in
gotta
the
say
middle,
the guy in
I
the
think he ended up winning. He was super buff.
well, the guy on the far left seems almost out of place. Like I mean, he looks fine, like physically, but he's like so tiny. He looks a lot older than them
That
too, I
guy
think. Yeah,
that we're looking at now,
yeah.
yeah, he's just much older, so he's in the older weight class. The older
Oh,
guys are
okay.
like just super skinny. They can't like build muscle like these other guys. What's crazy is that let me get rid of this. This is not what I want to watch right now. Stop it. Stop sharing.
For those of you listening, we're just watching a video of a
Yeah,
bunch of really ripped dudes on a stage flexing, and
yeah.
then there's one skinny old man on the
Yeah,
end.
yeah. If you want to see it, go either watch this on YouTube or go to Mark Mason on Facebook. He posts a ton of content on there he goes to like 20-30 shows a year, and does the video and photography for a lot of that stuff. He's a super cool guy. And my brother's been working with him for a long time, and then I've done a bunch of jobs for him. He actually just texted me. We need to talk about something. I think we're going to do another show in Bend here pretty soon. So that's what I was doing last weekend, and then the bird was what I was doing before I got on the call.
Nice. You know what I've been doing?
What
Since
have you been doing?
Friday is in this. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because we're not doing our recommendations. We don't usually do them this early, but this is also my recommendations. So might as well just talk about it now.
Okay.
But a new PS5 game came out on Friday called
Oh.
Returnal. and it is fucking incredible. I'm like addicted to it. It's like a third person arcade shooter.
Hmm.
And it follows this astronaut named Celine, and she crash lands on this planet. And you wake up on the planet and you're trying to basically get a distress beacon out to get some help. And the whole game plays like a old school kind of bullet hell arcade shooter, but it's like a sci-fi horror third person perspective. And basically the game's built around loops. So you start off in the beginning with like your pistol, your sidearm, and nothing else. And then you go from room to room fighting, different aliens. And then as you're collecting you collect new gear and artifacts and all this stuff. But every time you die, it resets you all the way back to your ship, and then you have to start with nothing again.
Oh my God.
Um, and so it can be pretty challenging because it's all randomly generated. It's a roguelike game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you find some equipment as you go that's like permanent that'll stay with you. Like you get a sword and some other equipment that helps you access certain areas. But oh my god, I don't know what. Like I actually finished it yesterday.
Hmm.
The big downside to the game right now, which I think they're gonna probably patch, is that you can't quit mid run. Like if you're playing, if you've played for like an hour or something, but you need to stop and do something else. Like I literally have it paused right now in the living room because I was in the middle of a run when we started. And
You can't
but there's
save
no
it.
there's no save and quit option, which is weird because they could do it. Like people are saying that it's designed to do runs. And so if I quit out of the game and then start the game back up, it's going to put me back at the beginning and I'll lose basically 2 hours of progress that I've made. So I'm hoping that they'll add like a save and quit option for people who need to kind of stop and and go live their lives for a little while. But people are complaining that it ruins the game, and it's like, no, it doesn't. They can just do the one of the Dark Souls routes where it just kind of auto saves every like 5 or 10 seconds. And then if you die and go back, you can't. It's not like you can reload an older save. You just, you're back at the beginning again.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
would just give people the option to be able to stop playing if they need to. Like it's a game I don't know if I'm really going to be able to play during the week because the runs last for so long. It's like I don't usually have more than like a couple of hours during the week to like sit down and play at the end of the night. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't
and
give
I'm
you a lot of option to kind of play casually.
yeah, well, because a lot of roguelikes like that are designed that way, the runs are much shorter. It's like a run's usually like 30 minutes or something. Whereas in this, your runs can last for a really long time if you stay alive. And I've been like a lot of people were saying that it's a really difficult game, but I finished it with only I only died like 6 times total
Hmm.
playing through the whole thing. And then I started another run today trying to just find some more artifacts and stuff, and I haven't even died at all. So
Hmm.
either I'm good at the game or I've just gotten really lucky with like good loadouts or something. I don't know. Because people were like, oh, like some people were saying that they're really good at Dark Souls, and then they thought this game would be a breeze, and they're just getting their asses kicked. And I'm like, it's a different skill set. Like you have to dodge all these projectiles coming at you, and it's a
Yeah.
much faster game than
Yeah.
like the Dark Souls games.
I just watched the Before You Buy from Game Ranks,
Mm-hmm.
and because I had heard,
Mm-hmm.
weirdly enough, that you had been playing that game um, from a different person, and so I thought I'd sneakily find out about it. And it looks really cool. It looks, you know what it reminded me of is Geometry Wars, like a third person shooter version of Geometry Wars, where you only get a run, you only get what whatever life. I think like in that game you got like a couple lives, but it was still a run. And if you were it was like a little asteroid game where you're just a little isometric, or not even isometric, it's just two-dimensional, and you were a little spaceship, and you were just shooting um you know uh different shapes
Mm-hmm.
on the screen, but it was like amazingly fast paced, and you got all these different weapons, and you got bonuses for surviving longer, and you could just play it, and it was visually like really stimulating. And I remember just playing it for fucking ever. And
Well, the
yeah.
studio that made this, Housemark, they started as an arcade. They
Yeah.
made Super Stardust HD was like one of their first big games. They did Resogun on PS4. I don't know if you ever played that. And then they did Dead Nation, Alien Nation. They've done a lot of like those twin stick arcade shooters. This is
Yeah.
like their first game where like it's kind of a big
Bigger.
budget with a
Yeah.
plot and a bunch of stuff. But I think it's a game that you would probably like because you're good with like shooters. And so and it seems like the kind of game that you would get addicted to as well because you enjoy kind of
Yeah.
like just exploring and finding all like these little secrets and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it looks really, really
Then
cool. I mean,
it's fucking cool. Yeah, and the plot's really interesting because
yeah.
you're like you get all these random flashbacks to different
Oh,
things. So
really?
you're kind of trying to piece together what is going on while you're trapped on this planet, basically.
Oh, really?
And I finished the game yesterday. I beat all the bosses, which was then you go into what like the final act of the game where you have to replay each of the 6 areas and find these like specific items to basically get like the true ending to the game. So that's what I'm working on right now is just replaying biomes and trying to find these items so I can get the real ending. It's like a free roam kind of mode. But it's really cool. I recommend it for people if you're really looking for like a new fancy PS5 only game.
With your PS5 that you
Yeah,
now have.
if you've managed to get one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the downside is it's like, well, you have to have a PS5 to play. It's not on anything else. But it's a really dope game. I've been like
Cool.
addicted to it all weekend.
It's good that even though PS5 doesn't have a lot of games, the ones that have come out have looked really, really good. Like
Yeah.
the graphics on them are really awesome, and they seem to be kind of there's something interesting about them. They're not just like game fodder for people to just get out there. Like this game, and even the
Yeah,
Demon
well,
Souls
this
remake looks
yeah.
super different.
Well, and the cool
Looks
thing about
dope.
Returnal is it's I think part of the reason why it's so addicting is it's so different than anything else I've been like a lot of games
Yeah.
these days are like open world style games and they kind of have this humdrum to them,
Uh,
which is fine,
yeah.
in
They
doses, but
it's
this is just like
yeah.
a constant like there's a little cutscene in the beginning and then the most of the game is just you just playing it. Like it's just there's like no time to fire really. It just gets started right away.
Yeah. That's what
Um,
it looked like.
And
Yeah.
so it's just kind of nice where you're not like having to hunt around on a map for some random collectible or whatever. Like Ghost of Tsushima, I love that game, but I was playing it. I'm like, this is kind of just like an Assassin's Creed game with
Yeah.
really good sword combat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of a breath of fresh air just to play
I think
something.
that's the kind of thing of the like the open world stuff got really, really popular with Skyrim, I think, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Zelda and all that. Um and the legend therein. Um but after you play like a million of them, it's kind of like it's good to get a break from that type of
Mm-hmm.
gameplay, and they need to figure out a way to make open worlds like even like Cyberpunk, which is open world. It seems like it's just kind of like another open world that's more modern.
Yeah,
But
when I played a Cyberpunk, I was like, this is just like a Grand Theft Auto, like a Grand Theft
yeah,
Auto
just
RPG in a like a futuristic city.
yeah,
I mean, the whole time I was playing it, I was like, I feel like
yeah.
I'm just playing a Grand Theft Auto game.
It's hard to build in interesting mechanics into a thing that's already well established.
Mm-hmm.
And story is always a problem with open world. I think Ghost of Tsushima did a great job with their story though.
Yeah.
And everything was so beautiful in that game, but it's still kind of the gameplay itself was super repetitive.
Yeah, follow this fox
Yeah,
50 times.
yeah, yeah,
It's like it's that kind of stuff where like you do it the first few times, you're like, oh, this is really cool. But then
yeah,
like on the 12th fox that you're following, you're
yeah,
like, oh my God,
yeah.
again? Like how
And
many
the
foxes are
yeah,
there?
the 100th sneaky fucking assassination, and you're like, well, I guess I'm just the best assassin ever, and I
Yeah.
fucking did this.
Yeah. I didn't even use the stealth that much in that game. I enjoyed the
Yeah, you
sword
told me
combat too
that.
much.
Yeah,
I would just challenge every fort. I would just walk right up to the front gate and be like,
I
come
never
out
did
and
that.
fight me.
Yeah, that's the difference between you and I is it
You're
when it like
dishonorable. You're a sneaky snake.
in the apocalypse when we're running around killing stuff, you won't see me. I'll hide and I'll come out of the shadows, and Channing will just be there with like a big smile on his face and blood all over him.
Yeah.
Fucking
Calling people
ah,
out.
just
Hi.
Viking style. I'm the little rodent style.
Oh, nice.
I
What's interesting is in most I love stealth games, and usually that's my approach. Is I try to do. I always stealth in a game as long as I can, and then once I get
yeah.
caught, I just fight from there. But for yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is like one of the few games where I was like, I'd rather just fight with a sword. Like,
It's a great the sword
yeah,
fighting that's so good when you just
yeah,
get good at it and you block and I mean it's got so
fucking
many different
parry
ways
and
to do
yeah,
things. It really is good. It would be cool to have almost like a Metal Gear Solid, not the actual gameplay, but there was a Metal Gear where it was just a little series of challenges, and it was all against like AI robot, like
Oh,
it
the VR missions? Is that what you're
yeah,
talking
I
about?
think that's
Like
what
on
I'm
the
talking about. Yeah,
mhm.
the VR missions. And it was obviously like not real. It wasn't trying to look real. But I don't know. That would be kind of fun with that. I guess it's the same thing. It's just I was just trying to think of like ways to just challenge yourself with just that piece.
Mhm.
Um, do you know when E3 is?
June, I think it starts
Oh,
June
that's pretty soon.
12th, I think. Yeah.
June 12th. Yeah. That'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to um Far Cry. I'm really curious to see if the next Far Cry will be
Well, what's funny is I was supposed to come
well
out in
done.
February and then they
Yeah.
like delayed it and they just haven't given it a date. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they just ran into a lot of problems with it in the development or if they're just waiting for like a specific time trying to maximize the sales or something. You know how they like try to
Probably.
strategically pick a release date where they think
Yeah.
that they'll get the most.
This year seems to be the year of the, or this year and last year are the year of the postponements.
Yeah, with
Everything like,
COVID.
I mean, even like recently, I don't know if it's in your neck of the woods, but they were people were going back to work, or they were able to like go shopping again, and all the stores were opening, and then like a week later, starting this week again, I think they're all closing up again, and it's like
Yeah, yeah. Lane
just
County
having
just
people
went
going
back
back and
to
forth. It's fucking dumb.
yeah, our Lane County went to extreme risk on Friday. So now
Yeah,
all of our restaurants are just takeout only and the movie
yeah,
theaters are closed again. And
yeah. And then all
well,
the unessentials and
well, a lot of the outbreaks I think around here are from the U of O because they had all the students come back and resume classes
yeah,
and it
just
just became
fucking
a shit show again. So
those goddamn Utes.
and when
The
I'm like walking
Utes.
around on my breaks at work, because I work over by the campus, as I'm
Yeah,
out walking around, you just see like 30 or 40 of them in front yards playing beer pong and shit. And so
just
it's like, well,
making out.
this is why, everybody, this shit's not gonna go away because everybody's just hanging out in
Fucking
big old
assholes.
groups. But
Being
anyway,
all, yeah. Cool.
so that's my recommendation for the week is getting COVID from a college student, and then you
Yeah.
can just stay home for 2 weeks and play Returnal. So
Yeah. Hopefully you don't die. Um, yeah, it would be interesting. I didn't really want a PS5, but the more other people are talking about it, the more I want to play it.
well, I
Even
think
just to
that
play old games, it would be
they're
cool to
they're
have. But
finally I think we're starting to actually get some like actual PS5 games now. Like
yeah,
because I mean if you picked it up, it's like Demon Souls obviously would be a
I would
perfect
have to
choice for
play it.
you.
I'd
And
have
then
to play it.
yeah, and like Returnal's a good one. And
Yeah. To me, a lot of people are saying it's like Dark Souls. It doesn't look like at all like Dark Souls. They just don't know what it's like,
it's like
but
any
it's
game
like an
where
arcade game.
any game that's like difficult where when you die you have to go
Yeah,
back to
they
the
do
beginning.
say
They just
that.
call it Dark Souls.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
it reminds me more of like an old arcade game like Contra or something where it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
but it's actually even easier than that because it's only really hard at first, but once you start finding more equipment and stuff, it just gets a little easier because you have more to work with and you can increase like the size of your health meter and all that stuff as you find and collect like items. So it's like it's kind of hard in the beginning, and then for me it just gets a lot easier the further I go because I have all this shit that I'm carrying around with me now that just gives you all these little bonuses.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So
And then you can kind of get a little bit of progression, or a little bit of a
mhm.
sustained progression. And you start to learn, I'm sure, all the like not all the enemies, but like there's a probably a
Well, you learn their patterns, like their
types of
attack patterns and
yeah,
stuff. And so, because that's the thing is like the game itself is just fucking fun to play because it's
yeah,
so responsive and fast paced. And so you're just constantly sprinting around arenas and dodging
yeah.
attacks. And what's cool is it kind of has you have like you're invincible during the dodge animation, so you can dodge like through
Oh,
attacks and
that
stuff.
is like
So
Dark Souls.
mhm. And so it's just a really fun game to play. Like even if you didn't have any of the progression stuff, it's just fun. Like you finish a run and I kind of just want to start another one and just jump right back into it. But yeah, anyway, what's our topic this week?
Well, I don't know how to necessarily formalize the topic that I wanted to talk about, but I did write some notes for myself. Um, I wanted to talk about like times and ways that like your ego kind of either gets in the way, or times you see ego in other people. And I so that was kind of like just a thought that I had, was to chat about like when you like are full of yourself and you think you're awesome, and you or when you don't want help from other people because you think that you are, it makes you look weak, like those kind of
Mhm.
situations. And then another thing that I had been contemplating lately, and I kind of thought about more deeply when I was on my trip to the coast, um, was the tendency to follow prescribed roles, or um, kind of expectations that you expect, or that you follow from like other people that you're around, like family members. Like when you're in with your family, a lot of times you will kind of settle into kind of predictable and acceptable actions. Like when you're with your mom and your sister, they're going to have this dynamic, and you're going to fit into that dynamic in a particular way. And a lot of times it feels um like you just should say certain things, or you should act a certain way, or you should accept certain things from them. And it's because you're used to it, and you're trying to fit in and be part of this dynamic that you've been doing for a long time, and it sort of gets ingrained in who you are. And what I found was, when I was hanging out with my mom and my aunt, was that um, I was with them all weekend, and we went on a long car ride. And the whole car ride, we were just, talking. And a lot of it was just them talking because they were catching up. And it gave me a chance to kind of just like, I don't know, psychoanalyze the whole situation to death, and overly kind of try to, I don't know, just figure out who they are as like people and what they're doing. Like, why are they saying this stuff? I don't, they're like, they're older women in their 60s, and I don't hang out with that age group very often.
That's
And
surprising.
I know, right? Well, at my job, I actually work with people in that age group a lot, but
Mhm.
I don't get personal with them particularly often. And they're like random strangers. So these are like my family members. These kind of like, I'm related to them and I have similarities to them. And they're pretty different as people, my mom and my aunt. And so it just was a a kind of epiphany that I had while I was hanging out that evening, that like we all just sort of just did something kind of expected. Like, um, I don't know, it felt like it was a lot of just kind of going through the motions of saying the things that we should say to each other. And um, so it was just kind of a thing I was trying to think about. Like I don't want to like do any of that. I don't want to like say stuff just to be nice, and say stuff just to, I mean, you say, you I don't know how to explain it, but like I want to actually be interested in them and actually listen to them. I don't want to act like I want to listen to them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I would just want to be there in the moment, and just have whatever reaction I have as a, adult human being. And I don't want to be Joe, the um the 30-year-old son who went to school and all these other things that I've done in my life, that they're expecting me to act in a particular way. Like I'm trying to read who I am in this position. And that's just it was kind of like I was just like, fuck all that. I don't want to do any of that. I want to just like be honest with these adults that happen to be, my relatives, who are my elders, who you're supposed to have this kind of reverence for, respect for. But that's not that's not necessary. It's just a kind of expectation that we have based on archetypes and stories, and thoughts that we should act in a particular way. Um, so it kind of gave me, once I kind of thought about it in that way, I was kind of like, well, I'll just treat them like friends. Like I'll just treat them like people, and just try to be honest, and just, well, and be respectful as far as I would be to, anybody else that I'm hanging around with. But it was kind of it kind of freed me up to recognize that they're playing roles sometimes too. And so when they're doing things that are kind of unrelatable. Like I don't really know if they're like talking to me or engaging with me directly. Um, it's because they're kind of just, they want it to go smoothly. They want it to be fun, and they're trying um, to be, the parents or the aunt. They're trying to be the older folks. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, so that's kind of one of the things I was thinking about was roles that we play. Feel free to interrupt me at any point. Um, what's that noise? Um,
Is it on my end? I don't know.
I don't know.
It
I
might be
just
the
heard
TV or something. Vanessa's watching stuff in the living room.
sounded like a man. A
Yeah,
man.
it's probably the
It's fine.
TV.
Anyway, I needed a break from my diatribe anyway. Um, and then the other thing was ego. I don't know. I think the one thing about ego that I was kind of, it's easy to recognize is when like I'm working at my store, and I'm like, hey, how you guys doing? Can I help you find something? And a lot of times people will be like, oh no, I'm fine, I'll find it. And then like 2 seconds later, they're like, oh, I have no idea where any of this stuff is. Can you help me find it? And to me, that's just their ego, is like they wanted to come in, they want to act like they belong there and they know what they're doing, and they don't want to seem weak. And so they say, no, I'm good, when really they came in there for some purpose. And then they saw me, they're like, oh, I don't want that guy to like think that I don't know anything about anything. And so their ego steps in and goes, no, I'm good. And then their logical brain comes in about 2 seconds later and goes, oh, I don't even know why I'm in this aisle right now. And so then they ask where
Well,
they are.
could it also be an ego thing because you're like, oh, I don't want to, if you're helping me, that's taking away from somebody else who might need help. Because that's like usually where my brain jumps to when I'm in a store and I get there and they're
Sure.
like, oh, can we help you find something? Part of it is, oh, I just want to look around for a minute. And also, I don't want to waste your time because I don't really have a request at this particular moment.
Hmm.
And so it's like, I don't want to be taking away from somebody else who actually might need your help right
Well,
now.
that's
And
that's
then,
like altruistic. That's
yeah,
I appreciate that instinct.
because that's kind
Um,
of like my approach to just everything in my, especially when I'm out in public places, is like, I want to be the least amount of an inconvenience that I can because and I think it's because I've worked in so many service jobs that I'm just kind of like, oh, no, like, I'll come to
yeah,
you if I really need something. Like, but I don't want to waste your time, especially if I'm not 100% sure what I'm looking for. Or sometimes, like, when I go to a store, I just want to look around for a little bit, even if I did go there for something specific. Like, you never know what you're going to find sometimes while you're there
for
looking
sure.
around.
I
So I think,
think, yeah.
oh, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
was.
I think
y-
that.
Oh no.
No, I was gonna say I think that so I think it could be either way. Like it's like you were saying, it could be somebody who doesn't want to seem like they need help because they have like a particular masculinity ego thing that they're trying to uphold. And then I think there's some people who just really don't want to be a bother at that point in time and they don't want to take up your time.
It's not the person who says, I'm good, I'll look around. It's the person who immediately afterward asks for help. So, like, if you were like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
why are you? I think it's because they think about it. They hadn't actually thought about it. They hadn't thought about like what they were doing. They were just like, oh, I got to go to Office Depot I'm gonna bleep that out. Actually, maybe I don't know. Um, I don't know if it matters. I was trying to be coy about it, but it's hard to talk about without the specifics.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, so like they maybe they just aren't really thinking about it, and they go in and they're like, no, I'm fine, because that's their default mode. But then immediately they're like, oh yeah, I'm looking for this one thing. And to me, it just feels like if you were just humble when you walked in and recognized that like I'm just there to help, and um, and you don't know this store at all compared to me. Like I know this store very, very well. And that's my ego. My ego is like, how dare you not ask for my help? Like that's my whole job, is to like, I'm standing here to like direct people and help them find stuff. And it makes me feel really good to like know stuff more than other people. So like when they're not needing help, it's my ego that goes, what, they don't need me, like they don't recognize how fucking amazingly knowledgeable I am about this place.
Well, fuck you. I don't need you either. I
Yeah,
hope you all
exactly.
fucking die in a fiery car crash on your way
It's
home, you
it's
pieces of shit.
it's sometimes it feels like that, actually, especially if they ignore you. If you're like, hey, how's it going, and they just walk by, like they might have just not heard you, or they're like thinking about something, or they have like earbuds in or something, but you immediately go to like, well, fuck you too then, you piece
Yeah.
of shit. um
Well,
so
it's
yeah,
different when I don't usually, if they don't seem to acknowledge you. You know how like when you hear somebody talking to you, it's like your ears will perk up, or sometimes you'll make eye contact with them. So it's like that, you know, that they fucking heard you.
yeah, that's true
But
too.
then they choose to ignore you. Then that's when
That's
I'm like,
real
well,
bad.
dude, fuck you. But
Yeah,
like, yeah, especially nowadays when everybody's got like wireless earbuds and stuff, and I'm guilty of it too. Like when I go out walking around and stuff, I usually have
yeah,
headphones in, and there's been times where people are like talking to me or trying to get my attention, and I just literally do not hear them because all I can hear is music or whatever I got going on in my ears. And
totally.
so it's like those people, I try not to give them a hard time.
Yeah,
But there are
it's
times where like you're like, how can I help you today? And they look at you and then just walk away, and you're like,
yeah,
all you had to say was, I'm just looking, or oh, I don't need anything right now,
yeah,
thank you. You know, like
yeah.
it's just simple decency.
I think it makes a difference, especially in a like a place of work. Like it's not, I'm not out at a park where like the whole point is to get away from people.
Mhm.
You went to a place where people work and people spend a lot of their time. I almost think that what happens when you kind of work at a place a long time is you sort of treat it like it's your home. And like, because you kind of own that space, you care if it's safe, you care who's in it, you care how people are acting in it, and you're kind of always paying attention to, maybe some stuff is going to go down or whatever. Like especially as a manager, like I'm really used to kind of always checking out the room. Like I'm not just paying attention to who's in front of me, I'm always like looking over and checking out things. So when somebody comes in and they sort of act like I'm not there, or that like they just get to do whatever they want in that space, like this is just to me it's like this isn't your space. This is a private business that is here as a kind of um economic negotiation, and we have stuff for sale, but like we're not obligated um to let you in here. Like that's like we kind of are, but at the same
Hmm.
time we kind of are. And so like why not be nice? Why not like take your earbuds out, act like you're in a place where like this is your community. Like this is literally like why people talk about how annoying and how bad the community relations are. It's because people ignore people constantly, and they don't care to put in effort to do the niceties, to be polite, to do that kind of stuff. And that's part of my ego too, is I kind of want people to be more friendly and more nice in those circumstances. Those are the circumstances in which I think that you can kind of portray how you want society to be when you're actually interacting with people in stores or in a restaurant or something. Like when you're in a restaurant, like they're not your little slaves to bring you food. Those are people who are in your community, who are making money and trying to serve you. And I think that when you treat them like they're, a means to your end of like, having a nice experience or eating some food or, getting your products, they feel that they like, I feel like a object when people don't smile and don't listen to me and don't want my help. It's kind of an odd thing to think about, but um, I think that's part of the reason why like they'll treat you poorly, is because they're just treating you like you're not the person that you are.
Mhm.
And that's kind of a different topic, but um, I guess that kind of comes into play and gets kind of brings your ego down as well, when um, you're you're in a service industry and um, uh, you expect people to act a certain way and they don't. I don't know.
Well, ego is an interesting thing because it's there's like it's like interwoven in the fabric of all of our kind of like social
Yeah. Well, because of
interactions.
hierarchies and
Well,
things.
because like the definition of ego is it's like your measurement of your own self-importance. Um, and so it, like obviously it varies, and you can have people who have way too much of an ego, which are usually like those conceited, obnoxious fucking braggarts, and then you have people who have very little ego and the low self-esteem,
Yeah, like no ego,
kind of
like
meek people. And so those levels definitely clash, because I feel like you have people who you go into a restaurant and they demand this excellent service because they're paying you and they are expecting this because they're the customer is always right, etc.
yeah.
And then you have people who that just want to they just show up and they just want to get their food and not be a bother and just eat and depart. They don't really, they just want to kind of get by without
Yeah. Too much
being too
interaction.
much trouble. They just want to give you a decent tip if you were nice, like. And that, I mean, that's how I am. I like I said, I like to be of the least inconvenience that I can when I'm out in public places, because I'm like, dude, I'm just like one customer that this guy has today out of
Yeah.
100 plus. And so it's like, if if I can make this a smooth transaction and be nice and say thank you, and
Yeah.
at least I'm not contributing to the stress today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. I think
Mhm.
people don't oftentimes don't really think about the effect they have on other people. And they're like, oh no, I'm not rude, I'm not mean, I'm not any of that stuff. But they don't really see themselves from a different perspective
Well, and a lot
sometimes.
of that stuff is things that you don't get to determine. That's something that
Of
people
course.
around you that you're
Yeah,
interacting with get to determine. You don't get to say, I'm not an asshole. It's like, well, that's not really up for you to decide, actually. It's
exactly. Yeah,
everybody
that is
around you.
true. That is true. Well, and that's the thing that you should be kind of aware of, is that people are definitely judging you.
Mhm.
And so that's why sometimes you have to check yourself, like with other people, like you have to be like, hey, was that rude? Like, I don't even know if I, because sometimes you just say stuff, like half the time you don't know what you think or how you feel until you, like, it just comes out, and then you're like, oh, I don't even, that was kind of an interesting reaction. What do you like? How
Mhm.
did you like, did you think that was crazy? Like, did I just say something stupid and crazy? And if you're never checking yourself, then I think you just have kind of an insulated perspective of your accomplishments, of yourself, of what you do. And um and to be able to like be critical of yourself from other people's perspectives is, I just think, you just get a more accurate view of yourself, and
Mhm.
you can make adjustments that are based on um a kind of objective perspective from other directions, as opposed to just assuming that you know how to act in the world. um, you can use other people um, to try to gauge what kind of person you are. And a lot of people just don't want to, like, they don't trust other people, they don't want other people's perspectives, they don't think that that's valuable. Like, why, your opinion doesn't matter, I'm doing me, and I'm successful in these areas or whatever. um I guess I don't want to read into other people's minds too much, but
Mhm.
I can see that being the case. Um, Another thing that I recognize when my ego gets fucked up, or when I'm like, oh, like I suck or whatever, or I'm like, um, I care about what other people think, is when like I'm like doing something like recording myself playing music, or something like that, or doing like a live stream of like a skill that I think that I have of some sort. um, Even when I was doing those customer service videos, um, my ego is sitting there in the background trying to make sure that I look good and I look smart and I look
Mhm.
important. And and then when I go back and I watch it and I'm like, oh, I made this mistake and I made that mistake. And it's like me being a really harsh critic of myself, because I'm assuming that everyone else is going to be like this massively harsh critic. And I think that that's somewhat inaccurate, in that while people criticize you, um, it doesn't necessarily matter that they have opinions of you. Um, or it doesn't have to, I guess. Um, and you're like, when you put yourself online, your the idea that you should be perfect is kind of nonsensical if you're trying to live your life in any particular, like, without going insane. um the idea that you're going to do something that other people perceive as like amazingly awesome is like kind of, um I don't know, it's just detached from reality. Like, what are you
Mhm.
even talking about? I think it's maybe because of all the television and such that you watch, that you feel like, oh, there's these other people out there, and I think they're so amazing that when I get watched, I want to be like that. I want to be like those, like Joe Rogan or Brad Pitt, or these people that I idealize as like getting adoration from the masses. And I'm like, well, I want to be like that. And so when I'm actually doing the thing, I'm distracted by a perception that I need to do it correctly, or I need
Mhm.
to do it well for other people's sake. And then it distracts you from actually like playing your music or whatever, instead of just doing the thing and you happen to be recording it. Um, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, no. Well, and I mean, criticism is important because like you always want to learn from your mistakes and like try to find ways to improve. Um, and then as far as adoration, that's just a byproduct of the society that we've created, where like we are all, well, not all, but a lot of people are obsessed with like fame and usually the fortune that comes along with it and stuff. It's like we've kind of built this society, especially with the rise of it, like internet, like it's, have all these viral videos and all these people that just get really popular all of a sudden out of nowhere. And so I feel like there's a lot of people that are sort of chasing that, because I think it's like a measurement of success when you have a certain number of followers, or you're making a certain amount of money or something. And so we just, to be, I think, intrinsically tie all that together, basically, where it's like, oh, I only have 10,000 followers. It's not as much as this guy who's got like 1.2 million or something. And
yeah,
so it's like you're constantly sort of damaging your own ego because you feel like you should be doing so much better than you are, or have so
yeah,
many more people following you or something like that. Um,
yeah. I think you do need that, though. I think that's where the ego can be helpful, is that in order to be successful in the world, we kind of have to care about what other people think at some degree. Like
yeah.
at your job, or in school, you have to be able to judge yourself from their perspective. And in order to do a task for someone else, in order to serve somebody, you have to kind of be interested in their opinion of you. And so I think that's why, like, ego can really propel you forward and to do things. Like,
Hmm.
if you care what a attractive female thinks, your ego is going to be like, man, you better do this right. And then if you actually do something right, your ego goes, oh dude, you're the shit, you fucking rock, look what
Hmm.
you did. You landed the job, you landed the girl, you landed the plane. Like, why? That's pretty impressive, really. Um and so I think your ego also like is a necessary uh positive reinforcer, but then it can also kind of like distract you from your next thing you're going to do, because you're like, oh, I just did the awesomest thing yesterday. I don't need to do anything else, or I'll just
Yeah.
do that again. And then you just end up like kind of not living in the moment and not living toward the future. And so ego is this kind of like, um to me, it's kind of like a thing that is in the back. It's kind of like you're in your subconscious, like in the back of your mind, like a little, it can be a little helpful friend who's like kind of, judging your accomplishments. But then when it takes over you, it's like that Spider-Man, the bad Spider-Man, that's all, what is that one called? Venom.
Oh, Venom, yeah.
Like when Venom takes over, that's probably a metaphor for that anyway. Um, that's when your ego is like, oh fuck you, I'm the shit. That's like being manic. A lot of times when people are manic, they're not their ego necessarily, but their neurotransmitters are going off, and they're like, I can do anything, I'm fucking powerful, I can accomplish whatever I want, and I can paint all night and do all this stuff. um it's one of those kind of balancing acts that I think erring on the side of humility to me just makes sense, but maybe that's just because I have so much to be humble about.
Well, I think it's all about balance, right? Because
Yeah,
you need to be positive to yourself and recognize your own self-worth, because it's a healthy, like, especially for your own mental well-being. If you're constantly being negative towards yourself, like, it makes it much more difficult to accomplish anything of value. So it's like you have to like take your accomplishments in stride and appreciate what you've done, and realize that, but then at the same time not, like, let it inflate your ego too much.
yeah,
But also, don't be fucking down on yourself all the time. There's definitely a
yeah,
balance between sort of brash conceitedness and like humility and being humble, that you kind of have to walk that line. And definitely people fall all over the spectrum constantly every day.
yeah.
um but
I think there's also a neutral ground where if you're constantly saying something negative about yourself or something positive about yourself, you're probably not recognizing the kind of neutral nature of most of the time,
mhm.
where you don't actually have to be judging yourself constantly against your ideals. And you won't get anywhere if you don't have like some goals. But if you have goals and you're going toward them and it's happening slowly, that's what you do. That's the process. That's not being good or bad. I mean, it's being good in a certain sense, but it's not
Mhm.
like you've accomplished what your goal is. Like for me, I want to learn how to play guitar better, and there's no way I can do that by being exceptionally critical, and there's no way I can do that by being satisfied. But the middle ground is not
Well, it's accepting.
it's
It's
not
like it's
yeah, it's an
recognizing what you're
acceptance.
doing
Yeah,
well, but then also criticizing yourself to recognize where you can improve.
yeah,
I mean, I do that with my writing all the time, especially if I go back and reread something. I'm like, oh, this is really good. This part and this part's kind of weak. Like, is there a way for me to adjust that? Um, or what can I do to do this better next time? Because nothing's perfect. Like, everything's going to have a flaw somewhere. So it's just kind of trying to recognize that flaw and then learn from it, so you can maybe not repeat that same flaw in the future,
yeah,
or maybe repeat it in a less severe manner or
yeah.
something. Like, you find a way to kind of nullify it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's acceptance of all of it. Like
Hmm.
accepting that you're going to have an inflated ego sometimes and recognizing it and then being able to go like, okay, calm the fuck down, bud. Let's not suck our own dick.
Hmm.
I mean, if we could, we would, but we can't. Um, but and then there's also the like, oh, you're okay, dude. Like you don't need to like maybe you failed at this particular thing, but like calm down. You're not the worst person in the world. That isn't a real thing. And somebody probably still loves you. Remember that.
Hopefully.
It's hard to tell. And then there's the kind of accepting the middle ground too, where you're just kind of like, well, I'm just going through this, and this is what's happening right now, and I'll get better, um, and I'm good enough as I am right now. That's literally accepting the truth. The truth is I am here right now doing what I'm doing, and acceptance is another topic we could talk about more, but I think it kind of applies to almost anything. But
Hmm.
that's kind of, I think, the one of the keys to balance and the keys to contentment in life is accepting where you are at the moment, and without judging that acceptance as being negative either. Like it just because you accept something doesn't mean you're satisfied.
Well,
It
I was gonna
just
say,
means
I
that
think
you're
some
accepting it.
people, honestly, well, I think some people struggle with acceptance because it feels like settling
Yeah.
sometimes, when that's not
Yeah.
necessarily what it means. It's like you're accepting the situation for what it is, but that doesn't mean you can also think about how to improve it or recognize how, like, why it sucks,
Yeah.
but you have to also accept that it's happening. Like,
Yeah.
live in a
Well, and
constant state of denial is
yeah.
not
Well, and
healthy.
accepting that it kind of sucks is a form of accepting. It's just
Hmm.
an accepting that's more objective and less like punitive. Like,
Hmm.
and it only sucks in comparison to something else. And your comparison may be a bad comparison. You may be inaccurately comparing yourself to something, that maybe is inappropriate or unequal. Like comparing myself to people who've been playing guitar for 10 years is a poor comparison. It doesn't make any sense, but it is a kind of way to look at goals.
Yeah.
I think having these kind of desires and expectations of yourself really pushes you back and forth between different psychological states as you're kind of working toward these desires. Like, I want this thing, I want this thing, and then you're you're not getting it. And so you react in different ways. So it's just a kind of thing to contemplate while you're looking at your life, is like, are you do you have an accurate picture of yourself? And you can't have a fully accurate picture of yourself. Nobody really can. Like,
Well,
you don't.
everybody views you differently too.
Exactly.
Like you're viewed differently by every individual in your life. Some people are
Yeah.
obviously going to think more highly of you, and other people not so much. So
Yeah. And you don't have full access to yourself either. You don't have full
no.
access to all your memories and all your like interactions with people and all the way that you've been. So there's no like 100% version of yourself. And so getting a little bit more kind of I don't know, like accepting that vagueness, like accepting the vagueness of yourself, I think is kind of frees you up to like be yourself, like, because you're not trying to be, you're not, like I was talking about earlier with roles. Like, if you just get like, no matter what you do, you're not going to like fit into a perfect role into somebody else's life. And then if if you constantly think you're perfect, that's not going to work. So like, it's just trying to be yourself is like, it only takes work if you're trying to be somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and at that point, if you're trying to be somebody else, maybe to please another person, then you have to look at the value of that relationship, because
Yeah, I
it's
think
a
you do.
two-way street, and that person should also be accepting of who you are, just like you're trying to accept who they are. And I'm not saying I like
Yeah,
the idea
it's
that
tough.
there's always a little bit of room for some change. Like, I mean, if somebody doesn't like maybe one specific minor thing about you, and you don't like one specific minor thing about them, it's like, I think that's fine if you need to make an adjustment or something just
Yeah.
to appease that other person. But don't, I'm not saying go out and
Yeah.
change the fiber of your being, because then what's the point?
Well, and you also have to judge people, and you have to accept, and you have to like be in control of what your environment looks like to a certain degree. Like, if there's something really negative in your environment and it happens to be another person, you have to accept that that sucks. And you have to accept that like they might not be good to be around, or you might be able to like accept that you're going to be around them and they're going to be like that. But that doesn't mean you have to react in the way that you've reacted in the past. Like if you have a family member who does something that's really annoying, and you're like, well, why don't they just change? They're not going to change. That's not how it works. But you can accept that that's the way they are. And they're just playing a role. They're just trying to be the best person they can be. They're just, they're just living their little life. And you don't have to react in the way that you've reacted before. You don't have to care that they have different political views. You don't have to try to change them. You can just say, okay, that's good. Yeah. Oh, you're good. You got it. You're right. Who cares? Well, it doesn't matter. Like, your ego is the thing that's telling you you can change somebody, or they should be a certain way so that it's easier on you. So it's interesting. Like, you kind of, we want to like grasp onto everything and make it work to our benefit, but that's like megalomaniacal. Like you're only I'm going to change it up completely. Okay. Just thinking about control. I have like random individual fucking scout ants. If I have no idea where they're showing up from. They're just like in my sink. There's no food there. What is happening? Where is this one ant? Where are the rest of them? There's got to be millions of ants, and one ant is just showing up, and I kill them. Like, I'm like, because to me, it's like, if you're a scout, my goal is to like deter the group from like bringing the rest of the forces. And to me, I can't like tell them, hey, like, so I kill the messenger, I kill the scouts of the ants. I'm sorry, PETA, but it's too bad. Like, they're in the wrong place. Like, a spider in one place is fine and a spider in another place is not cool, in my opinion. There's
Mhm.
certain boundaries I make, and whether they know it or not, like, they're crossing into boundaries. So I don't know why this came up when we were talking about what we were talking about, but
I thought
um
you were trying to wrap into ego, like how you're murdering all these random single scouts, but then they keep showing
well,
up, and
it
maybe it's
does.
because
Yeah, yeah,
each subsequent scout, their ego is like, dude, I'm gonna fucking succeed where Fred failed when he was
yeah, I think
smashed by
that's
this
it.
giant man.
I think that's it.
I am gonna make it because I am Thomas and
What?
I am an amazing scout.
Yeah, but they
And
don't know that like Fred died. They just know Fred never came back. So they're like, well, let's go find out what happened to Fred. And then they go back to the same area. But it's only one. Where is this one ant? Where are the rest of them? They've got to be living in the walls or the area somewhere. But like, I haven't seen groups of ants in like months. But there's just one that just shows up randomly. And
dude,
I don't know
insects are
what to do
bizarre
about it.
like that. Like in my office at work, it was like a week or two ago. We do like a morning meeting, and in the middle of the meeting, I just noticed this big. It was probably like a $50 size fucking spider just on the wall in the office.
Yeah.
And at first I was
Where?
like, is that real or is that like a prank somebody's playing? Did somebody go buy like a fake, realistic looking ant to put on the wall or something to freak everybody out? And they're like, nope, that's real. And then we're just like, how the fuck, where did that thing come from? We're in a giant office building on the second floor, and then here's just this random giant spider on the wall. Like, how did
Yeah.
it get here?
Yeah.
What
It's
the
super
fuck?
weird. They travel around and then they don't get seen. And then all of a sudden they're just there. And you're like, how did you fucking get
Yeah,
here?
you were so crafty this whole time, and now you're
Yeah.
gonna just stop in the middle of the wall? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? We didn't murder it though. We did the old water cup with the paper and got it
Yeah.
in the cup
Yeah,
and
for
took it
sure.
outside.
I've been less and less inclined to kill insects, even spiders, which I used to be very afraid of
Mhm.
and very anti. Like, I saw a spider the other day at work and it was on the ground and I just let it go. And then there was a spider in my room, and normally my room is like one of those, even in my whole apartment.
One of those
In my apartment,
boundaries.
that's one of the boundaries. But
Mhm.
I was like, it's on the wall. I got to get up and like swat at it. I don't, who cares? Whatever. It's not going to hurt me.
Well, exactly. It's not like an aggressor. It's not going to come after
No,
you.
it wasn't a big scary
Yeah.
spider or
No,
nothing.
I'm the same way. I mean, I usually try to just collect them and just go put them outside,
Yeah.
and then let fate decide from there what happens to them.
Ants are not the same. Ants to me are a dime a dozen, and wiping a few hundred out is not going to do anything to anything.
This leads to an interesting topic that we should talk about some point, and that's just like the value of life, like
Oh,
how we as
geez. That's a
humans
tough
place
one.
certain values on other lives.
I think we do for sure.
Like we just smash bugs, but I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a living organism that's like
Yeah. Yeah.
conscious and doing things,
I
and
don't know about conscious.
because it was an inconvenience for you,
I
you
don't know if they
murdered it.
have I don't know if they have the nervous system to get to consciousness.
But then if somebody is having a bad day and they go shoot somebody else, that's a different
Oh
problem
yeah,
than
totally.
and smashing in it. Anyway, that just be an
Well, and
interesting
if a
topic.
rhino kills somebody, you're like, well, that's what rhinos do. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, like when people get mauled by a fucking bear out in the woods, I'm like, well, you went out in the
Yeah.
woods. That's its home. That can happen.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean you need to have a whole hunting party, go out and murder this bear now. Maybe just don't bother the fucking bear anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that could be the case. If the bear kind of encroaches on like a certain area though, it can be tough because we obviously care about our, fellow humans, especially family members, much more. Like, if they're trying to kill your kids, you're going to kill that bear
Well,
regardless.
yeah, I mean, like if a bear rolls up on your yard and is,
Yeah, with like
you're
a
gonna attack
Uzi.
somebody, then you obviously defend
Motherfucker.
yourself. But if you're out hiking and you stumble upon a bear and some cubs and it fucking murders one of your friends, it's like, well, that is the risks that you fucking take when you're out hiking in the woods. I mean,
But isn't
the
it a
bear was
risk?
just protecting. The bear doesn't know that you're not gonna kill its cubs. Just like you don't know that the
Well, as
bears are
soon
not
as
going
you
to kill
will.
your kids.
Well, and I
Yeah,
want to kill the bear cubs because
that's
they're
what I mean.
tasty. But also, isn't that a risk the bear takes by being out, like just living? Like, isn't that like it takes risks by walking around and having cubs? And one of the risks is that humans exist.
Mhm.
Like, if we want to be equal to the bear, like we take risks going out in the woods, bears take risks by living in the woods. They could build
So
little security
what you're
centers.
saying is all the wildlife around us and their natural habitats are all taking a risk because we exist as human beings. Because humans are
I
the
think that
outlier.
risk is the natural order of things. Everything is a risk. Life is a risk.
I'm just saying
Doesn't they don't
you're
get to
increasing the
choose, they don't get to
probability of.
like get rid of their risk because they're innocent animals.
I'm just saying when you go scuba diving, there is a probability and a higher risk that you might be mauled by a shark. I mean, that's just
Mauled? Do they maul people?
with their teeth. Hell
Like
yeah, they do.
rah!
You might be
um,
eviscerated by a shark because
well,
you
or like
were
a
swimming
stingray
out
or
in
something.
things. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
obviously you take that risk. It's very difficult to get mauled by a shark on land. Um, although in that Sharknado movie, I guess that's not true.
it's true.
Um,
They get picked up in the tornado
yeah,
winds. Game
that's how
over,
it
man.
goes. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting topic. I listened to Sam Harris on free will recently, and he doesn't believe in free will, and I'm slowly trying to get rid of my view of it because I think free will is a tough thing to argue for. I find it difficult to justify.
Well,
Um,
free will is interesting because you're sort of always a slave to yourself. So it's like,
well, you're a slave to physics. That's the
yeah, well,
problem.
that
Like
too.
all this pre stuff going on. There's it's a tough thing to think that you're in control in a way that people think that they're in control. But it's also a semantics game. Half of the concept of free will is just words. It's not. It doesn't matter. It's just
Yeah.
people talking about things in particular ways, and using the words like decision making and voluntary and consent. Like these are
Or
all like
cunt. Or
or
just cunt.
cunt. I mean that's do you have the will to call someone a cunt to their face? Are you free to do that? I think you are. I think that's fine. So yeah, good topics. But let's wrap it up. We've already got your recommendation.
Yeah, Returnal.
Um,
Go play it if you got a PS5.
it feels like a weird name,
It
like
is, yeah.
almost like
It's kind of so.
Returnal or retarded um or retinal or so. It doesn't sound like a real word
I don't think it is a real word.
because I don't think it's a
It's,
real
yeah,
word.
yeah, it's just something made up.
Yeah, it's a record
What
man.
a fun title. But what do you got? What are you recommending?
You know
Does
what
this
about that
speak?
name again?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It is a
Well,
little bit like kind of a cheap name because like it has a story, but part of the mechanic of it is that you return
mhm.
and when you die. But that's like kind of boring. Like you just named it after them. Like why don't they just call it like I don't know, shoot 'em up or something? Like couldn't you call it like what's that girl's name in it? Isis or something, Isabel, whatever her name is
Oh,
in it.
the character in the game, Celine.
Celine. Why don't they call it like Celine's never
Celine's
ending
Loop.
story or something? Yeah, Celine's Loop. I mean, that's still kind of cheap, but it's at least has something to do with the story
Mhm.
more. Anyway, that's
I feel like Returnal is one of those things that sort of gives you an idea of what the game is about, but then it sounds sort of
kind
edgy and
of.
cool,
It
like
does
sort
sound
of.
edgy.
It's like yeah, and so I feel like it just like, and I think it's a title that's so weird that it kind of sticks
Yeah.
in your memory a little bit more. Because if you
Yeah.
just called it like Celine's Loop, for example, gives you a little bit more idea of what the game is. But I feel like people would either forget what her name is. They'd be like, "That's that fucking Loop game. I don't remember."
Or yeah, but I like a little bit more poetry in names.
So do I. I'm very picky when I like title my books.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time thinking about the
Like
title.
it
I'm very
should be
particular.
slightly referential, but it should also be vague. Like it should be
Mhm.
like you have to know the story to understand the title.
But also like sort of catchy and distinct
Yeah, it
because
does.
I
It's
hate
difficult. Yeah.
like anything that's titled like The Lodge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
The
boring.
just and I'm like, okay, cool, great
Yeah.
job.
So it's about a lodge. I'm
Yeah.
probably okay. Great. It's like the cabin in the woods. Like that doesn't tell you anything. Um,
But like for example, there's just looking at some books, there's like The Terror by Dan Simmons. Fantastic book, but kind of a lame title. And the reason why it's called The Terror is because it's a horror novel, also because it takes place aboard the HMS Terror, which is the name of the ship that it takes place
Yeah.
on. So you kind of understand why they go with it. But then right next to that's a book called The Luminous Dead, which is
Super
kind of interesting because you're
Super
like, oh,
interesting.
luminous and dead are two words
Luminous
that
is
don't
cool.
usually go together. So it's sort of
Nope.
interesting and kind of easy to remember. But anyway.
There's a new show, speaking of interesting titles, and it's called Shadow and Bone.
Mhm.
And it's kind of an interesting title, but it's also kind of a boring title in that
It's just two nouns
it's
smashed together.
yeah, it's kind of like trying too hard of a title, like where they're trying to be vague but violence. Like they're saying shadow, which is vague, and bone, which kind of alludes to violence in some way. Like, why are you seeing bones? Bones typically are of skeletons, and skeletons are dead. So it's like it's kind of the same. Like, I don't know. The show's kind of fun to watch.
It's
I'm
based off
still
like
kind
a
of
young,
checking it
I
out.
think it's based off like a young adult
It's got to be.
fantasy series or
Yeah,
something like
it's
that.
like a trilogy.
Mhm.
I'm kind of getting into it though. It's very like highly overproduced, but it has some pretty decent acting and some cool fantasy elements that I'm interested in. But it was just kind of like Shadow and Bone. It's kind of like, yeah, it's like like hair and
Nails.
nails, and it's about a salon. Like, okay,
Yeah.
what? That's not that exciting. Anyway, okay, so I got to think about my recommendation here. You recommended Returnal. Um,
Dust and
I
sunlight.
Yeah, Dust and the Wind. Recommendations. Do. I got it. I haven't even recommended this yet. Dark
Hmm.
Souls 3.
Oh, there we go. A double video game
Fuck
recommendation.
your new games. Play a game that's been out for years and still has like tons of people playing it.
Well, and that's an example of a game where if you play it on the PS5, it runs better. It
I
actually runs
know.
at like higher frame rates, so it runs way smoother than.
I assume the networking is the same. Like, it probably doesn't matter. Like, you're still playing with people on PS4 and PS5
Yeah,
because it's the
most of
same
the
network.
most of the games it's like cross generation
It
when you're
should
playing
be,
online. So
because there wouldn't be anybody playing it on PS5. And a lot of the fun part of Dark Souls 3 is they did a decent job with the multiplayer, even though
mhm.
it's grueling and weird. It's a big part of it. I think it's fun. But yeah, play Dark Souls 3. I've been playing it with some friends. We're like kind of halfway through the game, and I'm playing it with Joey, who told me he saw a tweet of yours where you were talking about Returnal, and then I was like, oh, what's Returnal? Um,
Well, it was kind of cool. I was tweeting about Returnal, and then Housemark, the studio behind it, they were like liking all my tweets. So that was kind
oh,
of fun. It's kind
that's
of cool when
badass.
like when like a source for something you're tweeting about actually acknowledges that your tweet exists. It's kind of
Oh,
cool.
it's very exciting. Talk about ego boosting.
Yeah,
Um,
I matter. I
I had
mattered
it.
for a second.
I watch a dude on YouTube, a guitar dude,
Mhm.
and I did a question, like, hey, what about this thing? And then the next day he did a whole Q&A, not on my thing, but he did a Q&A video, and the first question on the Q&A video was mine, and I was like, I love you, you're my best friend, we're best friends now. Obviously,
Yeah,
you know me, I know you, we're good
yeah.
buddies. You
We're
answer my question,
follow me on Twitter.
and
We're
I was like,
basically besties.
because when you ask a question, like, part of me is like, I'm a fucking idiot. Why am I asking this? Like, no, I don't write comments on YouTube pages almost ever, and I try to be positive on there because I'm not a douchebag. But my heart sang all day because that dude just saw my little question and answered it on his video. I was very excited, and then I shared it on Facebook.
Oh, of course, as
Of
one
course,
does, as one does to justify how cool they are.
that's the only way people will know.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
else will they know?
For some on social media, it basically didn't happen.
Did Shouldn't have happened if it didn't happen there. All right, let's be done. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Go to joesnotesblog.com to check out the show notes, which will be sparse for this one because we just talked about vague concepts. And go there to check out photography and writing from me, and go check out Channing's books. He's working on one right now, the final in the trilogy of sins that occur
Western
in the Western,
Saints.
that occur in the West in the late 1800s, I believe, roughly. Isn't that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind
Late
of when the
1800s.
Westerns were. Um,
That Civil War era, somewhere in there, roundabout.
yeah. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, tell us about your ego, tell us about your video game preferences. We have a Facebook page that's linked if you want to check that out. And other than that, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. Wrap
All
it
right.
up.
Wrap it up, B.
Wrap it up and send it home.
Bye.